I'm standing in the back corner of the Grand Ballroom at the Metropolitan Museum, wearing a dress that cost more than my first car, watching my ex-husband parade his new wife across the room like she's a championship trophy he just won. The cameras love them. The flashes won't stop. Every social media influencer in New York is angling for the perfect shot of tech billionaire Ethan Cole and his stunning 24-year-old bride, Sabrina, who looks exactly like what she is, a former Instagram model who traded her followers for a fortune. They're the center of attention at this charity gala. Everyone wants to talk to them, photograph them, be near them. Ethan is eating it up, that familiar smile plastered across his face. The one I used to think was genuine before I realized it was just his public persona, the mask he wore for crowds and cameras and people who didn't really know him. Sabrina is glowing in a dress that probably cost $50,000, her hand possessively on Ethan's arm, her diamond ring, bigger than the one he gave me, catching the light with every movement. She's beautiful, young, everything I'm supposedly not anymore at 38. They haven't seen me yet. I made sure to arrive late, to position myself where I could watch without being noticed, where I could observe the spectacle, this public display of his upgrade, without having to endure the pitying looks or the whispered comments about how I must feel seeing them together. The truth is, I feel nothing. Or maybe I feel everything, but it's all buried so deep beneath years of hurt and betrayal and quiet rage that it doesn't show on my face anymore. I've learned to school my features, to smile when I want to scream, to appear calm when I'm barely holding it together. But tonight is different. Tonight, I'm not barely holding it together. Tonight, I'm in complete control. Because while Ethan is here showing off his new life, flaunting his happiness, making sure everyone sees how much better off he is without me, I'm about to sign a document that will change everything. My phone buzzes in my clutch. A text from my attorney, David Morrison. Ready when you are. The documents are prepared. Just need your signature. I look at Ethan one more time. Watch him laugh at something someone said. Watch him pull Sabrina closer, kiss her temple in that casual, possessive way he used to kiss me. Watch him live the life he chose, the one without me in it. And I smile, a real smile, because he has no idea what's coming. No idea what he's about to lose. No idea that the empire he thinks is his, the legacy he believes he built alone, is about to slip through his fingers. I type back. On my way. Stop. Before I take you one step further into the story, I need to talk to you. Right now. This very second. If you are not subscribed to this channel, I am asking you, no, I am begging you, to hit that subscribe button right now. Not in 5 minutes. Not after you finish watching. Right now. Because what you're about to witness is not just a story. This is a masterclass in patience, strategy, and the kind of revenge that doesn't scream, it whispers. And by the time the person who wronged you realizes what's happening, it's already too late. Vanessa isn't going to yell. She isn't going to make a scene. She isn't going to publicly confront her ex-husband and his child bride. What she's going to do is so much more devastating, so much more permanent, so much more satisfying than any screaming match could ever be. But here's the thing. This story gets intense. It gets complicated. There are layers upon layers of how she's been planning this. How Ethan's own mentor, the man who made him who he is, saw through him years ago and left Vanessa something that Ethan doesn't even know exists. Something that will literally transfer the core of his empire into her hands. And I need you here for every single moment of that unfolding. Every revelation. Every twist. Every moment when Ethan realizes that the woman he threw away wasn't just his wife. She was the foundation of everything he became. So please, hit that subscribe button. Smash that like button so this video reaches more people who need to hear the story. Turn on notifications because part 2 of this story is going to be even more explosive than part 1. And leave a comment telling me, have you ever been underestimated by someone who thought you were nothing without them? Because Vanessa is about to show Ethan exactly what happens when you underestimate the woman who built you. Now, let's get back to the story. Let's go back to the beginning. Back to when Ethan and Vanessa were the golden couple everyone envied. Back to before the betrayal. Before the divorce. Before everything fell apart. Because you need to understand what she lost to truly appreciate what she's about to take back. 12 years ago, I met Ethan Cole in the most unromantic place imaginable, a coffee shop at 6 a.m., both of us exhausted, both running on fumes, both trying to build something that felt impossible. I was 26, working as a business consultant for startups, barely making ends meet, but believing that if I worked hard enough, if I was smart enough, if I gave everything I had to the right company, I could make a real difference. I was idealistic, naive probably, but I believed in the power of good ideas executed well. Ethan was 28, a programmer with a vision for a tech platform that would revolutionize how businesses managed their data infrastructure. He had the technical skills but no business sense. No understanding of markets or scaling or how to talk to investors without sounding like he was speaking a foreign language. We literally crashed into each other. I was rushing to meet a client. He was rushing to meet with a potential investor, both of us juggling too many things, and our coffees ended up on the floor instead of in our hands. "I'm so sorry," he said, immediately dropping to his knees to help me gather the papers that had scattered everywhere. I wasn't watching where I was going. I was reviewing my pitch, and your pitch. I looked up at him. Really looked at him. He had kind eyes. Stressed, exhausted, but kind. For what?
A TAD platform.
Data management. Cloud infrastructure. He said it like he expected me to glaze over, like everyone did when he started talking about his work. But I didn't glaze over. I got interested. Tell me more. We spent 2 hours in that coffee shop. Missed our respective meetings. Talked about his vision, his platform, his complete inability to explain any of it in a way that investors would understand or care about. And I saw it. The potential. The opportunity. The way his brilliant technical idea could actually change industries if someone could just help him package it correctly. "I could help you," I said finally. "I'm a business consultant. I specialize in helping startups develop their market strategies. If you're interested, I could take a look at your business plan, help you refine your pitch, maybe introduce you to some investors I know." He looked at me like I'd just offered him a lifeline. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." "Because your idea is good. Really good. And good ideas with terrible execution die every day. I don't want to see that happen to yours." That was how it started. Professional. Collaborative. I started consulting for his company, which didn't really exist yet. It was just Ethan working out of his apartment with 2 part-time developers he was paying with promises and pizza. I helped him restructure his business plan, refine his pitch, connect with investors who could see beyond the technical jargon to the actual value proposition. And somewhere between the long nights working on investor presentations and the early mornings debugging code and the endless strategy sessions about market positioning, we fell in love. It wasn't dramatic. There was no big moment. Just a gradual realization that we worked perfectly together. That he made me laugh when I was stressed. That I made him see possibilities he'd never considered. That we were building something together, not just a company, but a life. Ethan Cole Technologies was incorporated 2 years after we met. I wasn't an employee. I was a partner, though not officially. Not on paper. I didn't take equity because Ethan needed to maintain majority ownership to satisfy the investors. I didn't take a salary because every penny needed to go back into growing the company. I believed in him, in us, in what we were building together. We got married in a small ceremony with just close friends and family. Nothing fancy. Nothing Instagram-worthy. Just 2 people promising to build a life together.
To be partners in everything.
"I couldn't have done any of this without you," Ethan said on our wedding night. We were in a cheap hotel room because we couldn't afford anything better, eating takeout pizza because we'd spent all our money on the business. "Everything I have, everything I'm going to be, it's because of you. Because you saw something in me when nobody else did. Because you believed." "We're going to do amazing things," I told him. together. And we did. For years, we did. The company grew. Slowly at first, then explosively. What started as a scrappy startup in Ethan's apartment became a legitimate business with offices and employees and clients who actually paid us. Then those clients told other clients. Then we got featured in tech publications. Then the big investors started calling. Through it all, I was there. Not in the spotlight. Ethan was the face of the company, the CEO, the visionary everyone wanted to interview and photograph. But I was behind the scenes, handling everything that made the spotlight possible. I managed operations, negotiated contracts, built relationships with clients, handled the crises that threatened to derail us, kept everything running while Ethan focused on the big vision stuff that investors and media cared about. I didn't mind being behind the scenes. That's what I told myself anyway. I was proud of what we were building. Proud of Ethan. Proud of being the reason he could focus on what he did best without worrying about the 1,000 operational details that would have buried him. You're the COO. Ethan would tell people at parties and events. Vanessa runs the actual business while I get to play with the technology and talk to investors. I'm the face, but she's the brains. It sounded like respect. Like appreciation. Like he understood my value. Looking back now, I realize it was something else. It was him establishing a hierarchy. Him as the visionary, the genius, the star. Me as the support staff. Important, sure. Necessary, definitely. But not the reason for success. Just the person who helped success happen. The money started coming in. Real money. The kind that changes your life. We moved into a beautiful home in the Hamptons. Started driving luxury cars. Wore designer clothes. Attended galas and charity events and industry conferences where we were suddenly the power couple everyone wanted to meet. I watched Ethan change during those years. Subtle at first. The way he started caring more about how things looked than how they worked. The way he began curating his image, his brand, his public persona. The way he started collecting influential friends the way some people collect art. It's just business, he'd say when I questioned why we were spending so much time at events and parties and networking functions. This is how you build a brand. This is how you stay relevant. Maybe he was right. The company kept growing. We went public 6 years after incorporation. Ethan's net worth suddenly had 9 zeros. We were on magazine covers. Featured in think pieces about successful entrepreneurs. Held up as an example of the American dream, brilliant vision plus hard work equals billions. I was always in the photos too. The supportive wife. The woman behind the man. Smiling. Elegant. Everything a billionaire's spouse should be. But increasingly, I felt like I was being erased. Not intentionally, at least I didn't think it was intentional, but gradually. Comments in interviews about how Ethan built the company from nothing. Articles that mentioned me only in passing, if at all. A narrative that was slowly rewriting history to position Ethan as the sole genius architect of everything we'd created. You should correct them, I told him once, after reading an interview where he talked for 20 minutes about his vision and his hard work and his sacrifices without mentioning my name once. You should tell people that I was there from the beginning. That I helped build this. I do tell people, he said, sounding defensive. I always give you credit. Not in that interview. Not in most interviews, actually. Vanessa, come on. Don't be petty. You know how you're valued. Does it really matter what some journalist writes? Yes, I wanted to say. Yes, it matters. Because you're rewriting our history. You're erasing my contributions. You're building a mythology where you're the hero, and I'm just, what? A footnote? A supporting character? But I didn't say any of that. I stayed quiet, swallowed my resentment, told myself I was being oversensitive, that what mattered was what we knew, not what the public believed. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Because what the public believed eventually became what Ethan believed too. Through all of this, there was one person who saw everything clearly. Richard Hartwell. Ethan's mentor. The man who'd invested in us when we were still just an idea and a lot of hope. The man who'd guided us through the early years when we had no idea what we were doing. Richard was 72 when I met him, a self-made billionaire who'd built and sold 3 successful companies over his lifetime. He was brilliant, demanding, and completely unimpressed by ego or pretension. He saw through people in about 30 seconds and had no patience for bullshit. He also saw me in a way most people didn't. Saw my contributions. Understood my value. Treated me like a partner, not an assistant. "You're the reason this company works," he told me once, at a board meeting where Ethan had just presented his latest grand vision without acknowledging all the operational work that would be required to make it happen. Ethan has brilliant ideas, but ideas are cheap. Execution is what matters. And you, Vanessa, are one of the best executors I've ever seen. "Thank you," I said, surprised and grateful to be seen. "Don't thank me. Just don't let him convince you that you're less important than you are." That's what happens to a lot of men when they get successful. They start believing their own press. Start thinking they did it all alone. Start forgetting who is really there, doing the actual work. "Ethan's not like that," I said, defensive of my husband even as a small voice inside me whispered that maybe Richard was right. "He's not yet," Richard agreed. "But he's heading that direction. I've seen it 100 times. Success changes people. Usually not for the better." I didn't want to believe him. Ethan was my husband, my partner, the man I'd built everything with. He wouldn't forget me, wouldn't erase my contributions, wouldn't let success change who we were to each other. Richard died 2 years ago. Heart attack. Sudden. Shocking. He was still active, still serving on our board, still mentoring Ethan and dozens of other entrepreneurs. One day he was there, sharp and vital, and impossible to imagine being gone. The next day, he wasn't. The funeral was enormous. Every major player in the tech industry attended. Ethan gave the eulogy, talking about how Richard had believed in him when no one else did. How Richard had taught him everything about business and integrity, and what it meant to build something that mattered. He didn't mention that Richard had believed in us. That Richard had taught both of us. That Richard had seen our partnership and invested in it, not just in Ethan's technical skills. Another erasure. Another rewrite. Another moment where I felt myself disappearing from the story of our success. After the funeral, Richard's attorney contacted me privately. Asked if I could meet with him. Alone. Without Ethan. "Why?" I asked. "Because Richard left specific instructions regarding you. Items he wanted you to have. Matters he wanted to discuss with you personally." "What kind of matters?" "The kind we should discuss in person, Mrs. Cole." I should have told Ethan about that meeting. Should have been transparent. But something stopped me. Some instinct that said this was important. That Richard had seen something. Understood something. Had taken steps to protect something. So, I went to the meeting alone. And what I learned there, what Richard had done, it changed everything. Richard Hartwell came to see me 6 months before he died. David Morrison, Richard's attorney, told me in his office overlooking Central Park. He was a distinguished man in his 60s, with a kind of steady, measured demeanor that came from decades of handling sensitive matters for powerful people. "He was worried about you," David continued. "About your position in the company. About what might happen if your marriage to Ethan failed." "Our marriage isn't going to fail," I said automatically. David gave me a look that suggested he knew better. That Richard had known better. Richard was concerned that you weren't properly protected. That despite being instrumental in building Ethan Cole Technologies, you had no official ownership stake. No equity position. No legal claim to the company you'd helped create. "I never wanted equity," I said. "I did it because I believed in Ethan. In what we were building together." And Richard admired that. Your loyalty. Your commitment. But he also saw things you apparently didn't want to see. He saw Ethan changing. Saw him starting to believe his own mythology. Saw him beginning to surround himself with people who reinforced that mythology instead of challenging it. I shifted uncomfortably. Everything David was saying echoed my own growing concerns. Concerns I'd been pushing down, ignoring, pretending didn't exist. Richard loved Ethan like a son, David said gently. But he also saw Ethan's flaws clearly. And he saw that those flaws were growing more pronounced as Ethan's wealth and fame grew. So, he took steps to protect you. What kind of steps? David pulled out a thick folder. Richard owned 17% of Ethan Cole Technologies, a significant minority stake from his early investment. That stake is currently worth approximately $4 billion. I sucked in a breath. $4 billion. I knew Richard had invested heavily early on, but I'd lost track of what that investment was worth as the company's valuation had exploded. Richard's will contain specific instructions regarding that stake, David continued. Upon his death, it would normally have been divided among his heirs, his children and grandchildren. However, he added a codicil to his will 3 months before he died. A sealed provision that could only be executed under specific circumstances. What circumstances? If Ethan Cole divorced you, or if you divorced Ethan Cole within 5 years of Richard's death. David paused, making sure I understood the weight of what he was about to say. Richard's entire stake in Ethan Cole Technologies transfers to you. Not to his heirs. Not to Ethan. To you, Vanessa Cole. Full ownership. Complete control of those shares. The room spun. I gripped the arms of my chair. That's not possible. Why would he? Because Richard believed you were the real builder, David said simply. He believed you were the one who turned Ethan's ideas into reality. He believed that if your marriage failed, it would be because Ethan had forgotten that. Had forgotten you. Had started believing he'd done everything alone. And Richard wanted to make sure that if that happened, you wouldn't be left with nothing while Ethan kept everything. But his children, his grandchildren, they're losing $4 billion because of me? They still inherited over $12 billion worth of other assets, David said drily. They'll be fine. And they understood Richard's reasoning. Richard explained his decision to them before he died. Told them he was righting a wrong. Protecting someone who deserved protection. I sat there trying to process this information. Trying to understand what it meant. What Richard had done for me. There's more, David said. The codicil also specifies that this transfer must remain confidential until the final divorce decree is signed. Neither Ethan nor anyone associated with him can know about it until the marriage is legally dissolved. Richard wanted to prevent any attempts to contest the will or challenge the transfer. He wanted it to be fait accompli, done before Ethan even knew what was happening. So, if I divorce Ethan, if you divorce Ethan, or if he divorces you, within 5 years of Richard's death, you become the second largest shareholder in Ethan Cole Technologies. Ethan currently owns 51%. You would own 17%. Enough to have significant influence. Enough to sit on the board. Enough to make decisions about the company's future. Enough to ensure you're not erased from the story of what you built. I thought about everything Ethan and I had built together. Everything we'd sacrificed. Everything we'd believed in. And I thought about how the story of that building had slowly become just Ethan's story. How I'd been relegated to a supporting role in my own life. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Richard died 2 years ago. Why wait? David's expression became somber. Because Richard had one more provision. He wanted me to wait until I saw clear evidence that his fears were justified. That Ethan was indeed forgetting you, erasing you, preparing to discard you. He didn't want me to plant seeds of doubt in a healthy marriage. He wanted me to intervene only if intervention became necessary. And you think intervention is necessary now? Mrs. Cole, David said carefully. I've had a private investigator following your husband for the past 6 months. At Richard's instruction, he set aside funds for this specific purpose. And the investigator has documented extensive evidence of an affair between Ethan and a young woman named Sabrina Matthews. Multiple hotel visits, romantic dinners, trips together that Ethan claimed were business-related. The affair has been going on for at least 8 months, possibly longer. The words hit me like physical blows. Idę suspecta. Of course I'd suspected. The late nights. The unexplained absences. The way he barely touched me anymore. But suspecting and knowing are completely different things. He's going to leave you, David said gently. Maybe not today. Maybe not next month. But he's positioning himself to. And when he does, he'll try to minimize what you get in the divorce. He'll argue that you didn't contribute equity, that you weren't an official employee, that you were just a spouse and therefore entitled only to whatever the prenup specifies. We don't have a prenup, I whispered. Then he'll try to prove that assets were separate, that the company was his creation, not a marital asset, that you deserve spousal support, but nothing more. And Vanessa, he'll probably succeed. Unless you have leverage. Unless you have power, unless you have 17% of his company that he can't take away from you. I sat there absorbing everything. The affair, the impending divorce, Richard's extraordinary gift, the power I didn't know I had. What do I need to do? I asked finally. Wait, David said. Wait for him to file. Or wait until you're ready to file. But don't sign anything yet. Don't sign any settlement papers. Don't make any agreements. When the divorce papers are filed, by him or by you, contact me immediately. We'll execute the transfer before the divorce is finalized. And suddenly, Ethan will find himself negotiating with someone who owns 17% of his company. Someone who can influence board decisions. Someone who can't be dismissed or erased or pushed aside anymore. He's going to be furious. He's going to be powerless, David corrected. Richard's will is ironclad. The transfer is automatic and irrevocable once the divorce proceedings begin. Ethan can be as furious as he wants. It won't change anything. I left that meeting with my head spinning and my heart breaking. I loved Ethan. Despite everything, despite the erasure and the neglect and the growing sense that I didn't matter to him anymore, I still loved him. Still hoped we could find our way back to who we'd been in that coffee shop 12 years ago. But I also knew David was right. Knew Richard had seen something I'd been too loyal, too committed, too invested to see. Knew that my marriage was ending whether I was ready to accept it or not. So I waited.
Watched.
Pretended everything was fine while quietly preparing for everything to fall apart. And 6 months later, Ethan came home and asked for a divorce. It happened on a Tuesday. Isn't it strange how life-changing moments always seem to happen on the most ordinary days? I was in the kitchen making dinner, something I'd gotten back into recently, because Ethan complained we'd been eating out too much and he wanted normal, home-cooked meals. As if I was a wife from the 1950s whose primary value was her cooking. Ethan came home early, which should have been my first clue. He never came home early anymore. But he walked in at 6 p.m., loosened his tie, and said, Vanessa, we need to talk. For words. For simple words that I'd somehow known were coming for months, but still weren't prepared to hear. About what? I kept stirring the pasta sauce, needing something to do with my hands. About us. About our marriage. About the fact that we're not happy anymore. You're not happy, I corrected, my voice sharper than I intended. I didn't say I wasn't happy. Vanessa, come on. Be honest. We're roommates. We barely talk. We haven't had sex in 4 months. We're living parallel lives, not a shared life. Because you're never here. Because you're always working or traveling or at events or with Sabrina, he finished.
Just like that.
Casual. Like he was mentioning he'd been having coffee with a friend, not confessing to an affair. My hand froze mid-stir. You're admitting it? I'm not going to lie to you, he said, and I almost laughed at that. As if he hadn't been lying for months. Yes, I've been seeing someone. Her name is Sabrina Matthews. We met at a tech conference 8 months ago, and I've developed feelings for her. Developed feelings, I repeated. That's what you're calling it? Developed feelings? I'm calling it what it is. I've fallen in love with someone else, Vanessa. And I know that the right thing to do is end our marriage before this gets messy, eh? I finally turned to face him. Really look at him. This man I'd loved for 12 years. This man I'd built everything with. This man who was standing in our kitchen, in the home we'd bought together, telling me he loved someone else like it was a minor inconvenience we needed to sort out. Does she know? I asked. About us? About our marriage? About the company we built? She knows everything, Ethan said. I've been honest with her from the beginning. She knows I'm married. She knows about our history. And she understands. She understands, I echoed. A 24-year-old Instagram model understands 12 years of partnership and sacrifice and building something from nothing? She's not just an Instagram model. I don't care what else she is. I cut him off. I don't care about her credentials or her interests or how well you think she understands your life. What I care about is that you cheated on me. You betrayed 12 years of marriage. You threw away everything we built together for someone who probably doesn't even remember what it was like before we had money. That's not fair, Ethan said. You're making this about money when it's about. What is it about then, Ethan? Love? You fell in love with someone younger and prettier and more exciting than your boring wife who just cooks dinner and manages your company. Is that the narrative? You don't manage my company, he said, and his voice was cold now. Defensive. You used to be involved, but for the past few years, you've stepped back. You've focused on our home life, while I focused on growing the business. I stared at him. I stepped back because you pushed me back. Because every time I tried to be involved, you told me I was micromanaging. Or that I didn't understand the new direction. Or that I should let you handle it. I stepped back because you made it clear my contributions weren't needed anymore. That's not, he stopped. Ran his hands through his hair. Look, I didn't come here to fight about the past. I came here to talk about our future. Or the lack thereof. I want a divorce, Vanessa. I want to end our marriage amicably. I want us both to move forward with our lives. Move forward. I repeated numbly. You want to move forward with your 24-year-old girlfriend who has no idea what sacrifice means. And where does that leave me, Ethan? What do I get in this amicable divorce? What do I move forward with? You'll be taken care of, he said. I'm not a monster. You'll get spousal support. A generous settlement. You'll be comfortable. Comfortable. I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my ears. I helped build a billion-dollar company, and my consolation prize is being comfortable? It's not a consolation prize. It's fair compensation for. For what? For being your wife? For supporting your dreams? For giving up my own career to help you build yours? What's the fair compensation for that, Ethan? A house and a monthly check. What do you want me to say? He was getting frustrated now, his voice rising. That I'll give you half the company? That's not realistic. That's not how divorces work. The company is my creation. Our creation, I interrupted. We built it together. I built it. You helped. There's a difference. There it was. The truth he'd been dancing around for years. The belief that had been growing in him as his success grew and his ego expanded. I built it. You helped. Get out, I said quietly. Vanessa. Get out of this house. Get out of my sight.
If you want a divorce, fine.
Have your lawyers contact my lawyers. But I'm done having this conversation with you. He left. And I stood in that kitchen with pasta sauce burning on the stove and tears streaming down my face, and I finally accepted what I'd been denying for months. My marriage was over. The man I loved was gone, had been gone for a while, probably. And I needed to protect myself. Needed to fight for what I'd built. Needed to use the gift Richard had left me. I called David Morrison that night. He asked for a divorce. I know, David said gently. His attorneys contacted me an hour ago. They wanted to know if you had representation. What did you tell them? That you did.
Me.
And that we'd be in touch. Good. Then let's do this. Let's execute the inheritance transfer. Let's make sure Ethan understands that I wasn't just along for the ride, that I built something too, and that he can't take it away from me. Understood. I'll start the paperwork immediately. The transfer will be complete within 72 hours. Ethan won't know until the divorce is finalized and the shares are officially in your name. He's going to fight this. Let him try. Richard's will is airtight. There's nothing Ethan can do except accept that he underestimated you, that he threw away a partner for a trophy, and that it's going to cost him everything he thought was his. 6 months after Ethan asked for a divorce, he married Sabrina in a private ceremony in the Maldives. I saw the photos on social media, like everyone else. Saw them looking blissfully happy on a beach at sunset. Saw the comments from their famous friends congratulating them on their beautiful love story. A love story built on betrayal and the erasure of 12 years of partnership.
But nobody seemed to care about that part.
The divorce was still in progress. These things take time when there's significant wealth involved. Ethan's lawyers were dragging their feet, probably hoping I'd get desperate and accept whatever they offered. They'd proposed a settlement that made me laugh. $5 million and spousal support of $50,000 a month for 10 years. $5 million. Out of a company worth $40 billion. Out of a fortune I'd helped build from absolutely nothing. I'd rejected their offer, of course. Told them I wanted half of all marital assets, including Ethan's stake in the company.
They'd laughed.
Actually laughed. Told me I was being unreasonable and delusional and that I had no legal grounds for such demands. What they didn't know was that I didn't need legal grounds. I had something better. I had 17% of Ethan Cole Technologies sitting in a trust, waiting to be transferred to my name the moment the divorce was finalized. But first I had to endure this gala. This public spectacle where Ethan would show off his new wife to all of society. Where everyone would whisper about me and pity me and wonder how I felt seeing them together. I almost didn't come. Almost stayed home. Almost let them have their moment without having to face the ex-wife he'd discarded. But then I thought about Richard. About what he'd done for me. About the power I was about to have. And I decided that I wanted to be here. Wanted to watch Ethan parade his trophy wife around while having no idea what was about to happen. Wanted to see his face when he finally understood what he'd lost. So here I am, standing in this corner, watching them bask in their moment. And in exactly 20 minutes, I'm meeting David Morrison at his office 6 blocks away. To sign the final documents. To officially accept the inheritance Richard left me. To become the second largest shareholder in Ethan Cole Technologies. And Ethan has no idea.
None.
He thinks he's won. Thinks he's moved on to something better. Thinks he left me behind with nothing but whatever scraps his lawyers decide to throw me. He's about to learn otherwise.
My phone buzzes again.
David, media is requesting interviews about your attendance at the gala. I recommend you don't speak to them yet. Wait until the transfer is complete. Wait until you have power. Then you can tell your story.
He's right.
I type back. Leaving now. See you in 10 minutes. I take one last look at Ethan and Sabrina. They're dancing now, wrapped up in each other, completely oblivious to everything and everyone else. She's looking at him like he hung the moon. He's looking at her like she's the only thing that matters. I wonder if he looked at me like that once. I can't remember anymore. I turn and walk out of the gala. Nobody notices me leaving. I'm invisible again, just like I've been for the past few years. Just the ex-wife. Just the woman who used to matter, but doesn't anymore.
Except that's about to change.
In about 30 minutes, I'm going to sign documents that will make me one of the most powerful people in tech. Documents that will ensure I can't be erased or forgotten or treated like I was just along for the ride. Ethan thought he was building his legacy tonight. Thought he was showing the world how happy and successful he was. What he was actually doing was giving me the perfect moment to take back everything he tried to steal. And I cannot wait to watch him realize it. David Morrison's office is everything you'd expect from an attorney who represents billionaires. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, mahogany furniture that probably costs more than most people's cars, and a silence so complete you can hear your own heartbeat. It's the kind of place where life-changing decisions are made with a stroke of a pen, where empires shift ownership while the rest of the world goes about their ordinary lives, completely unaware. I'm sitting across from David at his massive desk, and spread out in front of me are the documents that will change everything. The transfer papers, the shareholder agreements, the board appointment notifications. Everything that will transform me from Ethan Cole's discarded ex-wife into one of the most powerful people in the tech industry. My hands should be shaking. I should be nervous.
Should be second-guessing this decision.
Should be wondering if I'm making a mistake, if this is too aggressive, if I should just take Ethan's settlement offer and move on with my life quietly. But my hands are steady. And I'm not second-guessing anything. Because I've spent the past 6 months watching Ethan parade his new wife around like she's his greatest achievement. Watching him give interviews about his success without mentioning my name once. Watching him rewrite our history until I'm barely a footnote in the story of Ethan Cole Technologies. I'm done being a footnote. I'm done being erased. I'm done letting him pretend he built everything alone. Are you ready? David asks, his pen poised over the signature line. I've been ready for 6 months, I say. Let's do this. I sign my name, Vanessa Cole. Soon to be Vanessa Morgan again. I'm taking back my maiden name as part of the divorce, but for now, for these documents, I'm still a Cole. Still legally connected to the man who thought he could discard me without consequences. David countersigns as witness. Then he picks up his phone and makes a call. Execute the transfer. Authorization code 779 Delta. Yes, immediately. He hangs up and looks at me with something that might be satisfaction or might be vindication. It's done. As of this moment, you own 17% of Ethan Cole Technologies. Congratulations, Ms. Cole. You're now the second largest shareholder in a $40 billion company. The words hang in the air between us. 17%. $4 billion. More power than Ethan ever imagined I'd have. More influence than he ever thought I deserved. When will he find out? I ask. The notification goes out automatically to all major shareholders when there's a significant change in ownership. He'll receive an email within the next hour. Probably sooner. And there's nothing he can do to stop it? Nothing. Richard's will was executed legally and properly. The conditions were met. You filed for divorce, which triggered the transfer clause. Ethan can be angry. He can hire lawyers. He can contest and appeal and fight. But the shares are yours. Irrevocably.
Permanently.
He can't take them back. I lean back in my chair, letting it sink in. I did it. After 6 months of watching Ethan live his best life while treating me like I was worthless, after enduring the humiliation of seeing him with his new wife, after being offered a settlement that was essentially pocket change compared to what I'd helped build, I finally have power. Real power. The kind that can't be dismissed or ignored or erased. What happens next? I ask. Next, you prepare for war, David says bluntly. Because Ethan is going to fight this with everything he has. He's going to claim you manipulated Richard. That you poisoned Richard against him. That the will is invalid. That you don't deserve this. He's going to throw every legal resource he has at trying to overturn this transfer. And will any of it work?
No.
But it will be ugly.
Public.
Expensive.
Exhausting.
You need to be prepared for that. I'm prepared, I say. And I mean it. I've spent years being quiet, being supportive, being the woman behind the man, being invisible. I'm done with all of that. If Ethan wants a fight, I'll give him one. And unlike him, I'm not fighting with ego and pride. I'm fighting with facts and documentation and the truth about who really built his empire. There's one more thing, David says, pulling out another folder. Richard left you a letter. He instructed me to give it to you after the transfer was complete. After you'd claimed what he believed was rightfully yours. He hands me an envelope. Cream-colored. Heavy paper. My name written in Richard's familiar handwriting across the front. I open it carefully, and Richard's words, written months before his death, but meant for exactly this moment, bring tears to my eyes. Dear Vanessa, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And it means my fears about Ethan were justified. It means he forgot what you were to him, what you gave him, what you sacrificed. And it means he's trying to rewrite history to exclude you from the story you both created.
I'm sorry.
Sorry that the young man I mentored lost his way. Sorry that success poisoned him the way it poisons so many. Sorry that your loyalty and love weren't enough to protect you from his ego and ambition. But I'm not sorry for what I've done, for leaving you these shares, for ensuring you have power and influence and a seat at the table. Because you earned it, Vanessa. Every bit of it. And I won't let you be erased from the legacy you built just because Ethan has convinced himself he did it all alone. These shares aren't charity. They aren't a consolation prize. They're recognition. They're what you should have been given from the beginning. They're proof that I saw your contributions even when Ethan stopped seeing them. Use them well. Use them to protect yourself. Use them to ensure your story is told accurately. Use them to hold Ethan accountable for forgetting that empires aren't built alone. They're built by partnerships, and you are his most important partner. I believed in you 12 years ago, when Ethan first introduced us. I believe in you now. And I hope these shares give you the power to believe in yourself again. With deep respect and affection, Richard. I fold the letter carefully, fighting back tears. Richard saw me. Really saw me. Understood what I'd given, valued what I'd contributed, and he'd taken steps to ensure I wouldn't be left with nothing when Ethan's inevitable betrayal came. He was a good man, I say quietly. The best, David agrees. And he was right about everything. About Ethan. About the affair. About you deserving better. About you needing protection. My phone buzzes. A text from my friend Lisa, who's still at the gala. OMG, Ethan just got a phone call and went white. He grabbed Sabrina and basically ran out. What's happening? I smile. I think he just found out. The call comes 20 minutes later. Ethan. I almost don't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail just to make him wait. But I want to hear this. Want to hear the moment he realizes that underestimating me was the biggest mistake of his life. What did you do? His voice is shaking. With rage, probably. Maybe with fear. What the hell did you do, Vanessa? I signed some papers. I say calmly. Accepted an inheritance. Nothing illegal or underhanded. Just business. Business? You think stealing 17% of my company is just business? I didn't steal anything. Richard left it to me. Legally.
Properly.
It's mine. That's bullshit. He would never. Richard wouldn't. Ethan's voice breaks. You manipulated him. You poisoned him against me. You convinced a dying man to give you shares that should have gone to his family. His family got $12 billion, Ethan. They're fine. And I didn't manipulate anyone. Richard saw what was happening. Saw how you were erasing me from our story. Saw how you were preparing to discard me. And he took steps to protect me. Protect you? From what? I offered you a generous settlement. You offer me $5 million, I say, my voice hardening. Out of a company worth $40 billion. A company I helped build from nothing. A company that wouldn't exist without my business strategy, my operational management, my relationship building, my work. You offered me scraps, Ethan.
Pocket change.
And you expected me to be grateful. You didn't build this company. I did. It was my vision, my technology, your vision that I turned into a viable business model. I interrupt. Your technology that I helped you market and sell. Your company that I kept running while you focused on being a celebrity CEO. I built this with you, Ethan. But you've spent the past few years convincing yourself that you did it alone. Convincing everyone else of that same lie. Well, now you have to face the truth. The truth? The truth is you're a vindictive bitch who's trying to destroy me. No, I say quietly. The truth is I'm a woman who helped build an empire and refused to be erased from it. The truth is Richard saw your true character before I was ready to admit it. The truth is you traded a partner for a trophy, and it's going to cost you everything you thought was yours. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to contest the will. I'm going to prove you manipulated Richard. You can try. You'll lose. Richard's will is ironclad. His attorneys made sure of it. But go ahead and waste your money on legal fees. Go ahead and drag this through the courts. Every day you fight this is another day the media covers it. Another day people learn the real story of how Ethan Cole Technologies was built. Another day your reputation gets destroyed. My reputation? My reputation is perfect. Everyone knows I'm a genius. Everyone knows you're a CEO who cheated on his wife with a 24-year-old Instagram model. Everyone knows you left your partner of 12 years for someone who looks good in photos. And soon, everyone is going to know that the woman you discarded was actually the architect of your success. That's what happens when you force me to fight back, Ethan. The truth comes out. Silence on the other end. Then, what do you want? I want what's mine. I want a fair divorce settlement that recognizes my contributions. I want a seat on the board. I want my name associated with the company I helped build. I want the story to be told accurately. And if I give you all that, then maybe I'll be a cooperative shareholder. Maybe I'll vote with you on board decisions. Maybe I'll let you maintain control of your company without interference. But that's up to you, Ethan. You can work with me, or you can fight me. Your choice. This is blackmail. This is business, I correct. You taught me that. Everything's just business, right?
No personal feelings.
No loyalty. No history. Just transactions and leverage and power. Well, congratulations. I learned the lesson. And now I have leverage. I hang up before he can respond. My hands are shaking now, not from fear, but from adrenaline. From the rush of finally standing up for myself. Of finally refusing to be small and quiet and grateful for scraps. David is watching me with approval. That went well. That went terrifyingly, I say. He's going to come after me with everything he has. Let him. You have the law on your side. You have Richard's ironclad will on your side. And most importantly, you have the truth on your side. Ethan can spin whatever narrative he wants, but the facts are clear. You were instrumental in building that company, and Richard recognized that even if Ethan won't. My phone rings again. Different number. I glance at the screen and see it's from a journalist at TechCrunch. Then another call comes in, this time from Bloomberg. Then Forbes. Then the Wall Street Journal. It's starting, David says. The news is breaking. Major shareholder change in Ethan Cole Technologies. They're going to want your side of the story. Do I talk to them? Not yet. Let Ethan scramble first. Let him make mistakes. Let him say things he'll regret. Then, when he's made himself look bad, we tell your story. We reveal everything, your contributions to the company, the way you were erased, the affair, Richard's recognition of your value. We control the narrative by letting Ethan destroy his own first. It's strategic.
Smart.
Ruthless, in a way, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with. But I'm learning that sometimes you have to be ruthless to survive. Sometimes being kind and quiet and accommodating just gets you erased. Okay, I say. We wait. We watch. And when the time is right, we tell the truth. The news breaks everywhere within hours. Major shareholder shakeup at Ethan Cole Technologies. Billionaire's ex-wife inherits significant stake in his company. Late mentors will transfer billions to Vanessa Cole. The media loves it. A scorned ex-wife. A tech billionaire who left her for a younger woman. A twist of fate that suddenly gives the discarded spouse enormous power. It's the kind of story that generates thousands of think pieces about betrayal and karma and whether women in tech get their due credit. Ethan tries to control the narrative. He releases a statement through his publicist. I'm saddened by recent developments regarding Richard Hartwell's estate. Richard was a mentor and friend, and I believe he was unduly influenced during a difficult time in his life. My ex-wife and I are working through a complicated divorce, and I regret that our personal matters are now playing out in public. I remain committed to Ethan Cole Technologies and to continuing the innovative work that has always been my passion and vision. This statement is careful, diplomatic. It suggests that Richard was manipulated without directly accusing me. It positions Ethan as the victim of unfortunate circumstances. It maintains his image as the visionary genius who built everything. But the media isn't buying it. Maybe because the timeline doesn't support his narrative. Maybe because people are tired of seeing powerful men discard their partners and face no consequences. Maybe because my story, Woman Helps Build Empire, gets erased, finally gets recognition, resonates more than his. The articles start digging into our history. They find early interviews where Ethan credited me with the business strategy that made the company viable. They uncover industry contacts who remember me negotiating contracts and managing client relationships. They discover documentation of my role in the company's early success, documentation that Ethan's recent narrative has conveniently ignored. One article in particular, written by a journalist named Sarah Chin for Forbes, goes viral. The woman behind Ethan Cole, how Vanessa Cole built a billion-dollar empire and got written out of history. Sarah had done her research, interviewed former employees who remembered my contributions, reviewed old business plans that had my fingerprints all over them, traced the company's growth trajectory, and identified the strategic decisions I'd made that had been crucial to success. The article is damning. Not of me, of Ethan. It paints a picture of a man who leveraged his partner's skills and connections, then gradually erased her from the story as he became more successful. A man who believed his own press so completely that he forgot how he'd actually gotten there. Social media explodes. Hashtag Vanessa Cole starts trending. Women share their own stories of being erased from professional partnerships, of contributing and not getting credit, of building things with partners who later claimed sole credit. Ethan's carefully cultivated image starts to crack. His next public appearance, a tech conference where he's supposed to give a keynote, gets protested. Not violently, not dramatically, but women hold signs asking, "Who really built your empire?" and "Give credit where it's due." The questions at his keynote aren't about innovation or technology. They're about me, about my role in the company, about why he's never publicly acknowledged my contributions, about whether his recent marriage to someone 20 years younger was always the plan, or if it was opportunistic. Ethan handles it poorly, gets defensive, says that people who weren't there don't understand the complex dynamics of building a company, suggests that my current claims are exaggerated and motivated by divorce proceedings. His defensiveness makes everything worse, makes him look like he's hiding something, makes people question what else he might be lying about. And through it all, I stay silent. Don't give interviews. Don't release statements. Don't engage. Just let Ethan scramble and spin and dig himself deeper. "You're handling this perfectly," David tells me during one of our strategy sessions. "The media loves a mystery. By not talking, you're making yourself more interesting, more sympathetic. People are projecting their own experiences onto you, seeing you as every woman who's ever been undervalued or erased. I'm not trying to be a symbol," I say. "I just want what's mine." You're both. And that's powerful. When you finally do speak, when we're ready to tell your full story, people will be desperate to hear it. And Ethan will have already used up all his credibility trying to spin this. Before we go any further, I need to pause and talk to you again. Because what's happening right now, this public shift, this moment where Vanessa's silence is more powerful than any statement could be, this is strategic brilliance. And I need you to understand it fully, so you can appreciate what comes next. If you're watching this and you're thinking, "I wish I could be this strategic when someone wrongs me," or "I wish I knew how to fight back without fighting," then you need to be subscribed to this channel. Because the lessons in this story go way beyond just Vanessa and Ethan. This is about how to reclaim power when someone has taken it from you. How to use patience as a weapon. How to let your enemies destroy themselves while you stay calm and prepared. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Smash the like button because this video needs to reach everyone who's ever felt erased or undervalued. And drop a comment telling me, do you think Vanessa's playing this right? Or should she be more aggressive? Should she be out there telling her story immediately? Or is the silence more powerful? Because what happens next depends entirely on timing, on knowing exactly when to strike, on understanding that revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's whisper quiet and absolutely devastating. Now, let's get back to the story. Let's watch what happens when Vanessa finally breaks her silence. 3 weeks after the news broke, Ethan shows up at my apartment. I've moved out of our house. Couldn't stand being in the space we'd shared, surrounded by memories of who we used to be. My new place is smaller, in a different neighborhood, deliberately chosen to be somewhere Ethan wouldn't think to look. But he found me anyway. I hear the knock and check the security camera David insisted I install. It's Ethan, looking haggard. Thinner than I remember. Dark circles under his eyes that even expensive concealer can't hide. I consider not answering, letting him stand there knocking. But I'm curious. Want to see what he looks like up close now that his world is crumbling. Want to hear what he has to say when there are no cameras, no publicists, no carefully crafted statements. I open the door, but don't invite him in. What do you want, Ethan? To talk. Please, Vanessa. Just 5 minutes. You had 12 years to talk. You chose to spend the last year of them lying and cheating. I think we're done talking. I know you're angry. I'm not angry, I interrupt. I'm done. There's a difference. Then why are you doing this? Why are you destroying everything we built? I'm not destroying anything. I'm claiming my share of what we built. There's a difference. He runs his hands through his hair, a gesture I remember from when he was stressed, back when I cared about his stress levels. The board is in chaos. Shareholders are demanding answers. Our stock price has dropped 12%. Clients are questioning whether to continue working with us. You're killing the company. I'm existing as a shareholder. If the company can't handle that, maybe it was never as stable as you pretended. Vanessa, please. His voice cracks. I know I hurt you. I know I made mistakes. But don't take it out on the company. Don't destroy what we spent years building just because you're angry at me. You think this is about revenge? I ask. You think I'm doing this to hurt you? Aren't you?
No.
I'm doing this because Richard left me those shares. Because I have a legal right to them. Because I helped build that company and deserve to be recognized for it. Your hurt feelings about that are not my concern. It's not about hurt feelings. It's about the company. About our employees. About the people who depend on us. The people who depend on you. I correct. I don't work there anymore, remember? You made it very clear over the past few years that my contributions weren't needed. That you had everything under control. That I should focus on being your wife instead of being your partner. Well, I'm not your wife anymore. But I am your second largest shareholder. And you're going to have to learn to work with that. Work with you? How am I supposed to work with you when you won't even talk to me? I'm talking to you right now. You know what I mean. You won't return my lawyer's calls. You won't negotiate settlement terms. You won't engage with the divorce proceedings in any meaningful way. You're just blocking everything. Because your settlement offers are insulting. Because you're still trying to minimize my contributions and maximize your control. Because you think if you wait long enough, I'll get desperate and accept whatever scraps you throw me. I offered you $50 million. How is that scraps? Ethan, we built a $40 billion company. I own 17% of it, which is worth approximately $7 billion. You offered me $50 million. That's less than 1% of what I'm entitled to. So yes, that's scraps. He stares at me like I've grown a second head. You can't seriously expect me to give you $7 billion. I don't expect you to give me anything. I own those shares. They're mine. What I expect is for you to recognize that and stop pretending you can negotiate away my legal ownership. This is insane. He stops.
Takes a breath.
Changes tactics. Sabrina thinks you're unstable, that you're spiraling, that you need help. I laugh. Can't help it. Sabrina, your 24-year-old wife who's never worked a real job in her life, thinks I need help? That's rich. She's concerned. She's not concerned about me. She's concerned about her lifestyle. About what happens to her expensive taste if your empire starts crumbling. About whether she married a billionaire or a man who's about to have very complicated financial problems. Don't talk about my wife like that. Don't pretend she married you for anything other than money and status. Don't insult my intelligence, Ethan. I know exactly what Sabrina is. I was watching her at the gala, remember? Watched her pose for photographers. Watched her make sure every angle was Instagram perfect. Watched her treat your wedding like a publicity opportunity. That's not love. That's a business transaction. And what was our marriage? A business transaction too. The question hits harder than I expected.
Was it?
Did I love him? Or did I love what we were building together? Did he love me? Or did he love what I could do for him? Our marriage was a partnership. I say finally. That's what I thought anyway. But partnerships require equal respect, equal recognition, equal value. And somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing me as an equal, started seeing me as an employee, or worse, as an accessory. So no, our marriage wasn't a business transaction. But it stopped being a real partnership long before you left. Ethan is quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm sorry.
For what I did.
For how I treated you. For the affair.
For everything. I'm genuinely sorry, Vanessa.
I believe you, I say. And I do. I believe he's sorry now that there are consequences. Sorry now that his reputation is damaged and his company is in chaos and his carefully constructed life is falling apart. But he wasn't sorry when he was cheating. Wasn't sorry when he was erasing me from our story. Wasn't sorry when he offered me a settlement that insulted everything I'd contributed. If you believe me, can we move forward? Can we find a way to settle this without destroying everything? We can, but it requires you to accept reality. I own 17% of Ethan Cole Technologies. That's not changing. I deserve a seat on the board. That's not negotiable. And I deserve a divorce settlement that reflects my actual contributions to our wealth, not whatever minimum amount your lawyers think I'll accept. Meet those terms and we can move forward. Keep fighting them, and this gets uglier for both of us. You're going to bankrupt me. I'm going to get what I'm entitled to. If that feels like bankruptcy to you, maybe that says something about how much you actually have versus how much you think you have. He leaves without another word, and I close the door feeling empty, not victorious, not satisfied, just tired. Tired of fighting, tired of defending my value, tired of proving that I matter. But I'm not stopping, because if I stop now, if I accept less than what I deserve, then Richard's gift was for nothing. Then all my contributions get erased. Then Ethan gets to maintain his false narrative about building everything alone. So I keep fighting.
Even though it's exhausting.
Even though I wish it didn't have to be this way. Even though part of me wishes Ethan had just loved me enough to treat me fairly. The board meeting happened 6 weeks after the inheritance transfer. It's my first time attending as an official shareholder. As someone with actual power instead of just proximity to power. The conference room is exactly as I remember, sleek, modern, dominated by a massive glass table and leather chairs that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. The same room where I used to sit in the back during the early days, taking notes, supporting Ethan, making sure he had everything he needed to present well. Now I'm sitting at the table. As a board member. As someone whose vote matters. As someone who can't be ignored or dismissed. Ethan arrives late, deliberately. A power move designed to assert control. To remind everyone that this is his company, his meeting, his show. He stops short when he sees me sitting in what used to be Richard's chair. That's Richard's seat. Richard's seat is now my seat, I say calmly. As his shares transferred to me, so did his board position. Would you like to see the documentation, or shall we begin the meeting? The other board members are watching this exchange with barely concealed interest. They're investors, executives, people who've been on this board for years. Some of them remember my early contributions. Some of them have only known the recent narrative where Ethan is the sole genius. All of them are clearly fascinated by this power shift. Let's begin, Ethan says tightly, taking his seat at the head of the table. First order of business, quarterly earnings report. The CFO goes through the numbers. Revenue is up, but not as much as projected. Stock price has dropped since the news of my inheritance broke. Some clients have paused contracts, waiting to see how the ownership dispute plays out. These numbers are concerning, Ethan says. The uncertainty around our ownership structure is affecting business. We need stability. We need clear leadership. We need to accept reality. I interrupt. The ownership structure is clear. I own 17%. You own 51%. Other investors own the remainder. The uncertainty isn't about structure. It's about your refusal to accept that structure. I'm not refusing to accept anything. I'm trying to protect this company from what? From having a second major shareholder? From having someone who remembers the early days and can hold you accountable? From having a woman at this table with actual power instead of just advice you can ignore? The room goes silent. Several board members shift uncomfortably. One, a venture capitalist named Patricia Reeves, who is friends with Richard, is hiding a smile. Vanessa, Ethan says, his voice strained. This isn't the place for personal grievances. You're right. This is the place for business. So, let's talk business. I've reviewed the quarterly report, and I have concerns. Our operational efficiency has declined 17% over the past 3 years. Client retention is down 9%. Employee satisfaction scores have dropped significantly. These aren't personal grievances. These are metrics that suggest this company isn't being managed as well as it used to be. Those numbers are within normal fluctuation. They're trending in the wrong direction.
Consistently.
And I think I know why. This company has become more focused on Ethan Cole, the celebrity CEO, than on Ethan Cole Technologies, the business. More focused on media appearances and conference keynotes than on client relationships and operational excellence. More focused on image than substance. That's not fair. It's accurate. I've spoken with former employees, current employees who've reached out to me privately, clients who've expressed concerns. People are worried about the direction of this company, about whether it can maintain its success now that. I pause deliberately. Now that the people who built the operational foundation are no longer involved. Patricia speaks up. Vanessa raises valid points. I've had similar concerns. Perhaps we should form a committee to review operations and recommend improvements. I think that's premature. Ethan starts. I second the motion. I say, making eye contact with Patricia. All in favor? 5 hands go up, including mine and Patricia's. A majority. Ethan looks like he's been slapped. This is my company. This is a public company with shareholders and a board, Patricia says firmly. And the board just voted to conduct an operational review. You're welcome to participate in that review, Ethan. But you can't prevent it. The meeting continues, but the power dynamic has fundamentally shifted. Ethan is no longer the unquestioned authority, no longer the sole voice that matters. He's now accountable to people who are asking hard questions and expecting real answers. By the end of the meeting, 3 committees have been formed: operations review, financial audit, and strategic planning. I'm on all 3. So is Patricia. So are other board members who've been quietly concerned about Ethan's leadership, but didn't feel empowered to challenge him. Ethan leaves the meeting looking shaken.
As he should be.
Because for the first time in years, he's not in complete control. For the first time, he has to answer to people, has to justify his decisions, has to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, he doesn't know everything. Patricia catches up with me in the hallway after everyone else has left. Richard would be proud, she says. He always said you were wasted in the background. Said Ethan was a fool for not making you a formal partner. Did he tell Ethan that? Multiple times. Ethan always brushed it off. Said you preferred to stay behind the scenes. Said you weren't interested in the business side anymore. That's not what I said. That's what he decided. I know. I knew it then. But Richard was the only one willing to push back on Ethan's narrative. The rest of us. She sighs. We let it happen. We let Ethan rewrite history because it was easier than challenging him. I'm sorry for that. You're here now, I say. That's what matters. I am. And I'm going to make sure that operational review is thorough. That we document everything. That we get the real story of how this company works and who makes it work. Because I think when we dig deep, we're going to find that a lot of what we thought was Ethan's genius was actually your strategy and other people's execution. I don't need vindication, I say. Though that's not entirely true. Part of me does need it. Needs the record to reflect reality. Needs people to know what I contributed. You deserve it anyway, Patricia says. And you're going to get it. 2 months after the board meeting, the operational review is complete. And it's devastating for Ethan. The report documents in excruciating detail how the company's decline in efficiency, client satisfaction, and employee morale correlates directly with Ethan's increasing focus on personal brand over company operations. How strategic decisions that seemed brilliant in press releases were actually poorly executed and cost the company millions. How key employees left because they felt undervalued while Ethan took credit for their work. It also documents, because I made sure it would, my contributions during the early years. The client relationships I built. The operational systems I implemented. The strategic decisions I made that position the company for success. Everything Ethan had tried to erase is now part of the official record. The report gets leaked to the press. I don't know who leaked it. Patricia swears it wasn't her, and I believe her. But suddenly, it's everywhere. Internal review reveals cracks in Ethan Cole's empire. Early partners' contributions vindicated by company report. Was Ethan Cole's success built on someone else's strategy? Ethan's reputation takes another massive hit. The image of the self-made genius collapses under the weight of documented evidence that he was never self-made at all. That his success was collaborative. That his recent struggles correlate with his decision to go it alone. And Sabrina, his young wife who married him for the glamour and the money and the lifestyle, she starts to realize what she's actually signed up for. I hear about it through mutual acquaintances. Sabrina complaining to friends that their life isn't what she expected. That Ethan is stressed and angry all the time. That he's obsessed with the business and the lawsuits and his crazy ex-wife. That the money isn't as unlimited as she thought because so much is tied up in legal fees and stock that's declining in value. That the glamorous life she'd envisioned, constant travel, luxury purchases, red carpet events, has been replaced by crisis management and damage control. She files for divorce 4 months after their wedding. The news breaks on a Friday afternoon, timed for maximum weekend news cycle coverage. Her lawyer releases a statement citing irreconcilable differences and fundamental incompatibility, but everyone knows the truth. She's jumping ship. Getting out before Ethan's empire crumbles completely. Before the lifestyle she married him for disappears entirely. The media has a field day. Tech billionaire's second marriage ends after 4 months. Sabrina Matthews leaves Ethan Cole amid company crisis. From trophy wife to gone wife, what happened to the Cole marriage? Social media is even less kind. The same people who'd celebrated their glamorous wedding now mock Sabrina for being opportunistic. Mock Ethan for thinking a 24-year-old model loved him for anything other than his money. Mock them both for the spectacular public failure of a marriage that had been flaunted so aggressively just months before. I watch it all unfold with a mixture of emotions. Part of me feels vindicated. See? I wasn't the problem. The problem was him. Part of me feels sad. This is the man I loved for 12 years, and he's being destroyed in the most public way possible. Part of me feels guilty. Am I responsible for this? Did I push too hard? Did my need for recognition contribute to his downfall? But mostly I feel nothing. Empty. Like I'm watching a stranger's life fall apart instead of the life of someone I once knew intimately. David calls me the day the news breaks. Sabrina's filing includes a claim that Ethan misrepresented his financial situation, that he told her he was worth significantly more than he actually is, that he hid the extent of his legal troubles and business problems. Is that true?
Probably.
His liquid assets are tied up in legal fees and settlements. His net worth is mostly in company stock, which has declined 30% since your inheritance news broke. He's still wealthy by any normal standard, but he's not the unlimited resources billionaire he was pretending to be. So she married him under false pretenses. And he married you under false pretenses, pretending he valued you as a partner when he really just valued what you could do for him. Karma has a sense of irony. This doesn't make me feel good, David. Watching him suffer. Watching his life fall apart. You're not the one who made his life fall apart. He did that himself. By cheating. By erasing your contributions. By believing his own mythology. By marrying someone for the wrong reasons. You just claimed what was rightfully yours. Everything else? That's consequences. He's right, I know he is. But it still feels heavy. Like I'm carrying the weight of Ethan's destruction, even though I didn't cause it. Even though he brought it all on himself. Sabrina's divorce filing changes everything. Suddenly, Ethan is facing 2 divorces simultaneously, mine, which is still being negotiated, and hers, which is fresh and messy and public. He's also facing the operational review recommendations, shareholder pressure, and declining company performance. He's overwhelmed. Drowning. And finally, he's ready to negotiate reasonably. His lawyers contact David with a new settlement proposal. It's not everything I want, but it's close. 50 million in liquid assets. The house in the Hamptons. Spousal support of 200,000 per month for 15 years. And most importantly, official acknowledgement in the company's history that I was a co-founder and instrumental in building the business. The acknowledgement is the key, David says. That's what changes the narrative permanently. That's what ensures you're not erased from history. And the shares? My 17%. That's yours regardless. Not part of the settlement. Those are separate. The settlement is about dividing marital assets and establishing support. The shares are your inheritance from Richard, completely independent of the divorce. So I keep them. Forever. Forever. And you keep your board seat. And your voting power. And your ability to hold Ethan accountable. I think about it for a long time. 50 million plus the shares means I'm walking away with approximately $7 billion in total net worth. More money than I could spend in several lifetimes. More power than I ever imagined having. More recognition than I thought I'd ever get. But more than any of that, I'm walking away with the truth. With the official record showing what I contributed. With my name permanently attached to the company I helped build. With proof that I mattered. Tell them we accept, I say. Let's end this. The settlement is finalized 3 weeks later. The divorce becomes final 1 week after that. And just like that, after 18 months of fighting, I'm no longer Vanessa Cole. I'm Vanessa Morgan again.
Free.
Powerful. Wealthy beyond measure. And officially recognized as a co-founder of one of the most successful tech companies in history. The media covers the settlement extensively. Vanessa Morgan settles divorce with Ethan Cole. Former Mrs. Cole retains billions in shares plus massive settlement. Tech industry acknowledges Morgan's co-founder role. But the most important article, the one that matters most, is an updated company history on Ethan Cole Technologies' website, where my name now appears alongside Ethan's, where my contributions are documented and acknowledged, where the story is finally told accurately. A year after the settlement, I'm sitting in my new office, not at Ethan Cole Technologies, but at Morgan Ventures, the investment firm I started with part of my settlement money. I'm funding startups run by women and underrepresented founders, providing not just capital but also the strategic support and business mentorship I once provided to Ethan. The companies I'm investing in are thriving because I know how to identify good ideas and help turn them into viable businesses. Because I learned from building one of the most successful tech companies in history, even if it took years for anyone to officially recognize that. I still sit on the board of Ethan Cole Technologies, still attend quarterly meetings, still vote on major decisions. Ethan and I are civil now, not friends, but professional colleagues who've learned to work together despite our history. The operational improvements we implemented after the review have stabilized the company. Stock price is recovering. Client retention is improving. Ethan has hired a COO, something I suggested years ago that he'd always refused, to handle day-to-day operations while he focuses on strategy and technology. The company is better for having me involved again, better for having oversight and accountability, better for having someone willing to ask hard questions and demand real answers. Ethan is dating someone new, another woman in tech, closer to his age, with her own successful company. Someone who doesn't need his money or status. Someone who seems to actually challenge him instead of just agreeing with everything he says. Maybe he's learned something. Maybe losing everything, his marriage, his reputation, his control, taught him what actually matters. Or maybe he's just better at hiding his flaws now. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. Sabrina is engaged to a hedge fund manager. Someone even wealthier than Ethan, though considerably less famous. She's learned to avoid the spotlight, keep her relationships more private. Maybe she learned something too. As for me, I'm happy. Not the desperate, grasping happiness of someone trying to prove something. Just content. Satisfied with the life I've built. Proud of the companies I'm helping create. Grateful for the recognition I finally received. I date occasionally. Nothing serious. I'm not sure I'm capable of serious anymore. Ethan broke something in me that might never fully heal, the ability to trust someone with my future. The belief that partnership means equal value and respect. But I'm okay with that. I don't need a partner to feel complete. I don't need validation from someone else to know my worth. I learned that lesson the hard way. 18 months after the divorce, Ethan asks to meet me for coffee. Not about business. Not about the board. Just to talk. I almost say no. Almost tell him we have nothing to discuss that isn't better handled through lawyers or board meetings. But there's something in his voice when he asks. Something that sounds like regret. Like he needs closure even if I don't. So, I agree. We meet at the same coffee shop where we first met 14 years ago. The irony isn't lost on either of us. Thank you for coming, he says, sitting across from me. He looks older. The past 2 years have aged him in ways that success never did. Lines around his eyes. Gray at his temples. A weariness that money can't fix. What did you want to talk about? I ask. I wanted to apologize.
Properly.
Without lawyers or publicists or anyone else involved. Just you and me, the way it used to be. Okay.
I'm sorry, Vanessa.
For everything. For the affair. For erasing your contributions. For taking you for granted. For believing my own mythology so completely that I forgot who I was before you helped me become someone. I know. But do you know why I'm sorry? Not because I lost the company, though that's been humbling. Not because my reputation was destroyed, though that's been painful. I'm sorry because I lost you. The real you. The woman who believed in me before anyone else did. The partner who would have built an even better company if I'd let her. The person who loved me for who I was, not what I had. I'm quiet for a moment. Then, I don't think you lost me, Ethan. I think you traded me. Deliberately. Consciously. You looked at what you had, a partnership, a real marriage, someone who knew you, and you decided it wasn't enough. You wanted something flashier. Something that looked better in photos. Something that matched the image you'd built. You're right. And I was an idiot. You were. But more than that, you were cruel. It's one thing to fall out of love. It's another thing to systematically erase someone from the story you built together. To rewrite history so you're the sole hero, and they're just background noise. I know. And I'm sorry for that most of all. You deserved better. I did. And thanks to Richard, I got it. He saw it all, didn't he? Saw what I was becoming.
Saw what I was doing to you.
That's why he left you the shares.
Yes.
He tried to warn me. Tried to make me see. But I wasn't ready to listen. I loved you too much to see clearly. And now I see perfectly. You're not a monster, Ethan. You're just a man who let success poison him. Who forgot that empires aren't built alone. Who started believing the myths other people told about you. That's not evil. But it's not forgivable either. Not completely. Do you hate me? I think about that question.
Really think about it. No.
I don't hate you. I don't really feel anything about you anymore. You're my business partner. Someone I see at board meetings. Someone I have to maintain a professional relationship with. But emotionally, you're a stranger. The man I loved died years ago, replaced by someone I don't recognize and don't particularly like. That's fair. Is that what you needed to hear? That I don't hate you. I needed to know if there was any part of you that might forgive me someday.
Not now.
Not soon. But someday. Forgiveness isn't something you get from someone else, Ethan. It's something you give yourself. If you need me to forgive you to feel okay about what you did, then you're still making this about you. Still centering yourself in my story. The question isn't whether I forgive you. It's whether you've actually changed. Whether you've learned anything. Whether you're becoming someone better or just someone more careful. I'm trying. I know that's not enough, but I'm trying. Then keep trying. Not for me. Not for us. For yourself. For your next relationship. For the people who work for you. For the company we built. Become someone worthy of the success you have. Become someone who remembers that he didn't get here alone. Will you be at the board meeting next month? Of course. I'm a board member. I have responsibilities.
Right.
Professional. Just business. Just business, I agree. And I stand up to leave. Vanessa, he calls as I'm walking away. I turn back. I really did love you. Maybe not well. Maybe not the way you deserved. But I did love you. I know, I say. But love without respect is meaningless. And you stopped respecting me long before you stopped loving me. That's what made everything else possible. I walk away from that coffee shop and I don't look back. Not because I'm angry or bitter or still hurt, but because there's nothing left to look back at. That chapter of my life is over. The man I loved doesn't exist anymore. And the man who remains is someone I'll work with professionally, but will never trust personally again. And I'm okay with that. More than okay. Because I've learned something crucial. I don't need Ethan to acknowledge my worth. I don't need his approval or his respect or his recognition. I have all of those things for myself. From Richard. From the board members who see my contributions clearly. From the startups I'm helping build. From the official company history that now includes my name. I built an empire once. And then I claimed my share of it. And now I'm building new empires with people who will never forget that success is collaborative. That partnerships require mutual respect. That erasing someone's contributions doesn't make them less real. It just makes you a liar. 5 years after the divorce, I'm 43 years old, and I'm speaking at a tech conference for women entrepreneurs. The auditorium is packed, over 2,000 women, many of whom are building their own companies, fighting their own battles, trying to claim their own space in industries that don't always value them. I tell them my story. All of it. The early days of building Ethan Cole Technologies. The gradual erasure of my contributions. The affair and the divorce. Richard's gift that changed everything. The fight to reclaim my place in the story I'd helped write. And I tell them the lesson I learned. Your value doesn't come from someone else's recognition. Your contributions don't disappear just because they're not acknowledged. Your story doesn't become less true just because someone tries to rewrite it. You built what you built. You did what you did. And eventually, the truth comes out. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not easily. But the truth always comes out. The standing ovation lasts 3 minutes. Women are crying,
Standing.
shouting their support, sharing their own stories of being erased, undervalued, dismissed. After the speech, a young woman approaches me. She's maybe 25, starting her first company, looking determined and terrified in equal measure. "Ms. Morgan," she says, "I'm building a company with my boyfriend. We're equal partners. But lately, in meetings with investors, they direct all their questions to him. They talk about his vision, his company, like I'm not even there. Like my contributions don't matter. Document everything," I tell her. "Every contribution you make, every decision you influence, every client relationship you build. Create a record that can't be disputed. Get your equity in writing, not promises, actual legal documents. Protect yourself now, while you still trust each other, so you're prepared if that trust ever fades." Do you think it will? Fade. I don't know. But I do know that people change when success comes. Money changes them. Fame changes them. Power changes them. And the person you start with isn't always the person you end with. So protect yourself. Not because you expect betrayal, but because you're smart enough to be prepared for it. Did you ever think Ethan would betray you?
Never.
Not once. That's how good he was at being someone I could trust. Or maybe that's how good I was at seeing what I wanted to see. Either way, I didn't see it coming. And I paid for that blindness with years of my life and millions of dollars in value I had to fight to reclaim. Don't be like me. Be smarter. Be more careful. Trust yourself enough to protect yourself. She thanks me and walks away, and I hope she listens. Hope she documents everything. Hope she protects herself. Hope she never has to fight the battle I fought. But I also know that some lessons can only be learned through experience. Some betrayals can only be understood by surviving them. Some strength can only be found by being broken and choosing to rebuild. We need to stop here one final time because the story is ending and I need you to understand what it means. What Vanessa's journey represents. What you can take from her experience and apply to your own life. This story isn't just about a woman who got revenge on her ex-husband. It's about reclaiming power, about refusing to be erased, about understanding that your value exists whether or not it's acknowledged, about protecting yourself even when you trust someone completely, about knowing that the truth eventually comes out, even if it takes years. Vanessa didn't destroy Ethan. She just stopped letting him define her. She stopped accepting his narrative. She claimed what was rightfully hers and forced him to acknowledge reality. And yes, that was painful for him. Yes, it complicated his life. Yes, it destroyed the false image he'd built. But those are consequences, not revenge. Those are what happens when someone who's been erased refuses to stay invisible. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt erased or undervalued or dismissed, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button if you somehow still haven't. Hit like to tell the algorithm this story matters. And most importantly, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's being erased from their own story. Someone who needs to remember they have power even when someone tries to take it away. Drop a comment telling me, what's the most important lesson from Vanessa's story? Is it about protecting yourself legally? Is it about documenting contributions? Is it about recognizing when someone is erasing you? Is it about having the courage to fight back? Tell me what you're taking away from this. Tell me how this story changes how you think about partnerships, marriage, business, power. Because these conversations matter. Your experiences matter. And the more we share these stories, the more we protect each other from making the same mistakes Vanessa made, and from becoming the person Ethan became. Thank you for being here for this entire journey. Thank you for watching Vanessa transform from erased partner to powerful board member. Thank you for understanding that justice isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, strategic, inevitable, and absolutely deserved. 10 years after that coffee shop meeting where Ethan and I first collided, 10 years after we started building something neither of us fully understood, I'm standing in the boardroom of Ethan Cole Technologies for what will be my last board meeting. I'm stepping down, not because I have to, not because anyone is forcing me, but because I've accomplished what I needed to accomplish. The company's history has been corrected. My contributions are documented and acknowledged. The operational improvements have been implemented and are working. Ethan has learned to lead collaboratively instead of dictatorially. My work here is done. I'm resigning from the board effective end of quarter. I announced during the meeting. I'll retain my shares, but I'm ready to step back from active involvement. Ethan looks surprised. Are you sure? The company has benefited enormously from your oversight. Your strategic input has been invaluable. I know, but it's time. I have my own companies to build now. My own legacy to create. This chapter of my life, our chapter, it's complete. Patricia speaks up. We'll miss you, Vanessa. Your presence on this board has made us better, stronger, more accountable. Thank you for fighting to be here. Thank you for supporting that fight, I say. After the meeting, Ethan catches me in the hallway. You're really leaving? I'm really leaving. Can I ask why? Really why? Because I don't need to be here anymore. I needed to reclaim my place in this story. Needed to ensure I wasn't erased. Needed to prove to myself more than anyone that I mattered. And I've done that. The record is clear. The truth is documented. I don't need to keep fighting a battle I've already won. You did win, he says quietly. Completely. Decisively. You proved everything you set out to prove. And you learned what you needed to learn. That's worth something too. I wish. He trails off. What do you wish? That I'd learned it sooner. That I'd listened to Richard when he tried to warn me. That I'd valued what we had instead of taking it for granted. That I'd been someone worthy of you. We can't change the past, Ethan. We can only learn from it and try to do better going forward. Are you doing better? I'm building companies with people who value collaboration. I'm mentoring women who are fighting their own battles for recognition. I'm using everything I learned, the good and the bad, to help others avoid the mistakes we made.
So yes,
I'm doing better. I'm doing what I was always meant to do before I got sidetracked by loving someone who couldn't love me back the right way. I did love you. I know, but it wasn't enough. Love without respect fails. Love without equality fails. Love without recognition fails. You loved me, but you didn't respect me as an equal. And that's why we failed. I respect you now. Enormously. I know. But now we're strangers. Colleagues. Professionals who share a history. And that's okay. That's what we were meant to become. Not enemies. Not friends. Just two people who built something together once, and then went their separate ways. I hope you find what you're looking for, Ethan says. Whatever that is. I already found it, I say. I found myself again. I found my power again. I found my voice again. That's more than enough. I walk out of that building for the last time as a board member, and I feel lighter than I have in years. The weight of proving myself, of fighting to be seen, of demanding recognition, it's gone.
Done. Complete.
I built an empire once with a man who forgot I was his partner. And then I claimed my share of that empire and forced him to remember. And now I'm building new empires with people who will never forget. That's the story. That's the journey. That's the lesson. Your value doesn't come from someone else's recognition. But sometimes you have to fight for that recognition anyway. Not because you need it to know your worth, but because the truth deserves to be told. Because erasure should never be accepted. Because the record should reflect reality. Ethan Cole built a tech empire. That's what most people believe. That's what the early narrative claimed. That's what he wanted everyone to think. But the truth, the documented, official, undeniable truth, is that Ethan Cole and Vanessa Morgan built that empire together. And when one partner tried to erase the other, the erased partner fought back and won. That's my legacy. Not billions of dollars, though I have those. Not board seats or power or influence, though I've had all of those too. My legacy is this. I refuse to be erased. I claimed my place in the story. I made sure the truth was told. And I'm using that truth to help others do the same. That's revenge. Not the screaming, dramatic kind, but the quiet, powerful, lasting kind. The kind that changes narratives and rewrites histories and ensures that people who build things get credit for building them. Richard understood that. That's why he left me those shares. Not to punish Ethan, but to protect me, to ensure I couldn't be erased, to give me the power to write my own ending instead of accepting the one Ethan tried to write for me.
Thank you, Richard, for seeing me,
For valuing me, for protecting me even after you were gone. And thank you, Ethan, for underestimating me so completely that I had no choice but to prove you wrong. The best revenge is living well. But sometimes, living well means fighting like hell to reclaim what's yours. And I did both. I lived well. And I fought hard. And I won. And all of that is enough. Thank you for listening.